sex. Most people think it begins and ends in the body. But what if sex is not only about touch? What if it is about the unseen current flowing between two beings? Pause for a moment. Ask yourself, when was the last time you felt intimacy that went beyond the flesh? The Tao of sex is not about performance. It is not about control or conquest. It is about energy. And energy always moves in ways the eyes cannot see. Think of sex as a language, not the language of words but of vibration. When two bodies come close, their fields overlap, their rhythms begin to speak. Sometimes this dialogue is harmonious, sometimes it is chaotic, but always it leaves a trace. Because energy never touches without leaving an imprint. In modern culture, sex has been reduced to pleasure, to chemistry, to attraction, to desire. But ancient traditions, Taoism included, saw something deeper. They saw sex as a way to circulate life force, to exchange qi, to reshape destiny. This is not just poetry, it is practice. And once you see sex as energy exchange, everything changes. Ask yourself again, why do some encounters leave you alive while others leave you empty? Why do some people stay in your memory even if you only touch them once? Why does the body forget but the soul remembers? It is because sex writes directly on the energy field. It bypasses the mind and marks the heart. In the Tao, everything is flow. Water flows, breath flows, seasons flow. And sex is the deepest current of all. It carries life, it carries consciousness, it carries mystery. Imagine two rivers meeting. At the point of contact, they do not simply mix, they churn, they exchange minerals, sediments, living creatures. Something new emerges, a third river that never existed before. This is what happens when two beings meet in sex. Not only bodies, but currents. Not only flesh, but fields. We live in a culture obsessed with performance. How long, how intense, how often. But the Tao of sex asks a different question. Not, what did you do, but how did energy move through you? Because when sex becomes only performance, it drains. When sex becomes energy, it nourishes. The hidden language of sex is subtle. It is not loud. It is not obvious. It whispers. It pulses. It lingers. Sometimes it awakens your heart. Sometimes it awakens your shadows. But it always moves something. And once moved, it cannot be undone. This is why casual sex is never truly casual. The body may walk away, but the imprint remains. Energy once exchanged cannot be taken back. It travels with you, like fragrance on your clothes, like music stuck in your mind. The Tao teaches us to recognize this, not to fear it, but to honor it. Sex, then, is a practice of responsibility, not responsibility as in guilt, but responsibility as in awareness. To know, when you enter someone, you are also entering their field. When you allow someone in, you are allowing them into yours. This is not small, this is sacred. The Tao of sex begins not in the bedroom but in the breath, not in desire but in awareness. Because if you cannot feel your own energy, how can you ever share it? And if you do not know how to hold your presence, how can you meet another without losing yourself? So pause again. Close your eyes if you wish. Feel the body. Notice its heat, its tension, its rhythm. This too is sex. It begins before another person enters the room. Sex is already happening in you, because energy is always moving. The Tao says, to master sex, you must first master yourself. Not control, not repression, but awareness. When you feel the river of your own energy, you will recognize the river of another. And when the two rivers meet, you will not drown, you will flow. The Tao always begins with yin and yang. Two halves, two forces, two currents. Without yin, yang cannot shine. Without yang, yin cannot rest. Together, they form the dance of existence. Sex is the clearest mirror of yin and yang. It is the living mandala of opposites meeting. But do not mistake yin for female or yang for male. They are not genders, they are qualities of energy. Yin receives, yang gives, yin holds, yang moves, and both live inside every person. Think of yin as the night sky, silent, vast, receptive. Think of yang as the sun, radiant, fiery, overflowing. The sun needs the night to return. The night needs the sun to awaken. Neither is whole without the other. In sex, yin and yang weave endlessly. One moment you are yin, opening, yielding, listening. The next you are yang, offering, pressing, igniting. Sometimes you are both at once. The body may move as yang, while the heart receives as yin. The breath may rise as yang, while the spirit sinks as yin. It is never fixed. It is a river. The mistake is to freeze yin and yang into roles, male as yang, female as yin. But the Tao whispers otherwise. These forces flow through everyone. A man can be soft and still be whole. A woman can radiate fire and still be whole. Sex is not rigid, it is fluid. When yin is lost, sex becomes force, too fast, too hard. When yang is lost, sex becomes heavy, too dull, too flat. But when they dance together, sex becomes alive. It becomes harmony. Picture two dancers. One leads, one follows. But in true dance, the roles change. The follower listens so deeply, they begin to guide. The leader softens so fully, they begin to yield. This is yin and yang. This is the Tao of sex. Think of breath. Inhale is yin. Exhale is yang. If you only inhale, you suffocate. If you only exhale, you collapse. Life exists only in their rhythm. So does sex. The circle of yin and yang is not static. It is moving, always curving, always flowing. Inside yin, there is a seed of yang. Inside yang, there is a seed of yin. Even when you give, you also receive. Even when you surrender, you also offer. This is why sex is not a battle, not dominance and submission as opposites, but weaving, balancing, circling. Yin without yang is emptiness. Yang without yin is fire that burns out. Together, they form wholeness. So pause here. Ask yourself, when you reach for someone, are you giving or receiving? When you touch, are you holding or opening? Perhaps it is both. Perhaps the line is thinner than you thought. The Tao does not ask you to choose sides. It asks you to flow, to move between yin and yang like the tide between shore and sea, to rise and fall like the breath in your lungs. Sex is not linear. It is spiral. It circles. It returns. Climax is not the end. It is just a turning point. So when you enter sex, do not cling to yin. Do not cling to yang. Give, then receive. Lead, then follow. Press, then soften. Let it change. Let it circle. This is balance. This is Tao. And when yin and yang flow, you discover the secret. Not two bodies, but one current. Not two wills, but one harmony. In that harmony, the self dissolves. The other dissolves. What remains is Tao itself. Every touch leaves a trace. But sex leaves more than a trace. It leaves an imprint. Not just on the body, but on the energy field. This is why sex is never casual. Even when we call it casual, the body may forget the details, but the soul remembers, the heart remembers, the field remembers. Think of two candles meeting. When one flame touches the other, fire jumps. One flame carries into the next. Even when they separate, the memory of fire remains. This is the imprint of sex. Once shared, energy cannot be undone. Have you ever felt haunted by someone? Long after the body parted, their presence still lingers. That is the imprint. Energy moves into you and stays with you. Sometimes it nurtures, sometimes it drains, sometimes it confuses, but it always leaves something. Modern culture denies this. It pretends sex can be mechanical, just an act, just friction. But the Tao teaches otherwise. Energy is never neutral. Every exchange reshapes you. Every exchange writes a new line into your subtle body. Some imprints feel like light. They brighten your days. They inspire your spirit. Others feel like shadows. They follow you in silence. They weigh you down. The difference lies not in morality, but in energy. Ask yourself, why do some lovers fade away, while others echo for years? Why do you wake from dreams still feeling someone's touch from long ago? It is not the mind, it is the field. The Tao reminds us, energy once exchanged becomes part of your story. This is why sex requires awareness, not to make you afraid, but to make you conscious. You are not only opening your body, you are opening your field, and whatever enters will live with you. Imagine your energy as water, clear, flowing, vibrant. Every partner is a drop falling into your stream. One drop may refresh you, another may pollute you, another may blend into you completely. Over time, your river changes. This is the imprint of sex.
Some people carry many imprints.
So many rivers, so many echoes. They feel scattered. They feel heavy. They feel tied to things they cannot name. This is not punishment. It is resonance. Energy still moving inside you, waiting to be noticed, waiting to be released. In Taoist tradition, this is why sexual practice is sacred, because you are working not just with flesh, but with destiny. Every choice of intimacy is a choice of energy, a choice of what you allow to live within you. But here is the hope. Imprints do not have to trap you. They can also transform you. When you bring awareness to them, they shift, they release, they teach. Even the most painful imprint can become a source of wisdom. Ask yourself now, what imprints are you carrying? Do you still feel the warmth of someone who once loved you deeply? Do you still feel the ache of someone who took without giving? Both live in you, both shape your energy, but both can be met with awareness. Awareness is the key. Without it, you remain bound. With it, you begin to heal. Sex does not disappear from your field, but its imprint softens. It becomes integrated. It becomes wisdom. So the Tao does not ask you to fear sex. It asks you to honor it, to see each union as an exchange of essence, to remember that energy is precious, and to offer it with presence, with respect, with care. When you live this way, you stop asking, "Did it feel good?" Instead, you ask, "Did it nourish me?" You stop asking, "Was it exciting?" Instead, you ask, "Was it real?" This is the imprint. This is the truth sex writes inside you.
Not all sex gives life.
Some sex takes it away. This is the shadow, the side we rarely name. The Tao teaches balance. But imbalance is common. Too much giving without receiving. Too much taking without offering. The result is depletion. Have you ever felt empty after sex? Not just tired, not just sleepy, but hollow, drained, as if something was pulled from you. That is not pleasure, that is loss. When sex becomes only physical, energy leaks, it scatters, it weakens the field. The body may enjoy, but the spirit shrinks. This is the shadow of sex. Some people use sex to feed their wounds. They take to feel powerful. They take to feel loved. They take to fill an emptiness. But emptiness cannot be filled this way. It only deepens. And in the process, the other person is drained too. In Taoist language, this is leaking qi, life force slipping away. When sex is unconscious, qi spills instead of circulating. You lose vitality, you lose clarity, you lose presence. This is why some people grow weaker with every partner. Not because sex is wrong, but because sex without awareness is consumption. Consumption devours energy. Circulation restores energy. Think of a fire. When two people meet with balance, their flames join and the fire grows. When they meet with imbalance, one flame consumes the other, leaving only ash. That is the shadow. Draining sex shows in subtle ways. You feel anxious after. You feel heavy. You feel disconnected. Instead of being nourished, you feel reduced. Instead of intimacy, you feel distance.
Why does this happen? Because sex is not neutral. Every touch carries intention. Every act carries energy. If the intention is shallow, the energy is shallow. If the intention is selfish, the energy becomes theft. The shadow of sex is not about morality. It is about energy integrity. Two people can consent in body, but still wound each other in spirit. Because what they exchange is not respect, but hunger. So how do you know the difference? Ask yourself. After sex, do you feel more alive or less? Do you feel more connected or more alone? Do you feel stronger or weaker? The answer tells you everything. The Tao reminds us, sex should not drain, it should circulate. When energy circulates, both are renewed, both are strengthened, both walk away fuller than before. When it drains, one takes, the other loses, and both suffer. Shadow sex can also be addictive, because emptiness seeks repetition, because pain seeks escape. So people return to the same draining cycle, mistaking intensity for intimacy. But intensity without balance is only fire consuming wood. It cannot last. The way out is awareness. Awareness of intention, awareness of energy, awareness of balance. With awareness, you stop offering yourself to emptiness. With awareness, you stop mistaking hunger for love. So the Tao does not shame sex. It does not call it sin. It simply asks, does it nourish or does it drain? If it drains, step back, breathe, recenter. Because your energy is sacred, and once given, it cannot be taken back. The shadow teaches us this truth. Not all sex is the same. Some awakens, some depletes. The wise path is to know the difference, to choose the exchanges that strengthen, and to walk away from those that weaken. Only then can sex return to its true nature, not shadow, not loss, but light, but circulation, but Tao. Sex can drain, sex can heal, but at its highest, sex creates. Not just children, but realities, energies, worlds. This is sacred union, where two meet, not only as bodies but as souls,
not only as flesh, but as energy fields. In sacred sex, the body is the doorway, but the spirit is the traveler. Every touch opens a gate. Every breath awakens the field. Pleasure is not the goal. Pleasure is the path. Have you ever felt sex become silence, where time disappears, where your breath feels infinite? That is the threshold, where union shifts from physical to cosmic, where two dissolve into one field of energy. The Tao describes this as yin and yang dancing. Yin receives, yang gives. Together they circulate. When the circle is whole, energy does not leak. It spirals, it grows, it ascends, it transforms. This spiral is creation. It births vitality in the body. It births clarity in the mind. It births connection in the soul. In this way, sex becomes medicine, not a hunger, but a renewal. Sacred union is not about technique. It is about presence. Two people meeting fully, without masks, without games, without shadows, just essence, just truth. When this happens, sex feels like prayer, a wordless prayer spoken through breath and touch. The bed becomes an altar, the body becomes incense, the orgasm becomes offering, not to each other alone, but to life itself. This is why the Tao speaks of sexual energy as creative force. It is the same energy that makes the flowers bloom, that spins the galaxies, that awakens the spring. Sex, at its highest, is the pulse of creation flowing through you. But most people never reach this. Why? Because they stop at pleasure, because they forget presence, because they treat sex as escape, not as entry. Escape leads downward. Entry leads upward. When sex is escape, it numbs, it scatters, it drains. When sex is entry, it opens, it unites, it elevates.
Sacred sex is not louder, it is deeper.
It is not more dramatic, it is more silent. It is not about performance, it is about surrender. The surrender of ego, the surrender of masks, the surrender of control. And when two surrender, something greater appears. A field larger than either, a vibration stronger than both. In this field, healing flows naturally. Creation happens effortlessly. This is union. This is Tao. The Taoists called this the returning to source. Because when yin and yang meet in balance, they do not stay separate. They dissolve into origin. In that dissolution, life force renews, spirit clears, love becomes vast. Not everyone is ready for this, and that is fine. Sacred union cannot be forced. It cannot be faked. It comes when two people are present, open, and willing to dissolve. It comes when the body is honored, the spirit is awake, and the heart is free. So if you wish for sacred union, begin with awareness, begin with slowing down, begin with presence, touch not to take, but to feel, breathe not to control, but to enter. See your partner not as body, but as universe. And then, sex becomes more than sex. It becomes Tao in motion. It becomes love in vibration. It becomes creation in flesh. This is sacred union. This is sex as prayer. This is sex as creation.
Sex is medicine. If used with awareness, it can wound, but it can also heal. The same force that creates life can restore life. How? By moving energy, by unlocking blocks, by awakening flow. The Tao teaches, illness is stuck qi, healing is moving qi, and sex, when conscious, moves more qi than almost anything else. Think of the body as a river. When the river flows, the land is fertile. When the river blocks, the land dries. Sexual energy is the floodgate. It opens rivers inside you.
It washes away stagnation. This is why people glow after deep union, why their faces soften, why their eyes shine. Because healing has begun, because circulation has returned. But most sex today does not heal. It distracts, it numbs, it drains. So how do we shift it back? By bringing intention, by remembering presence. The first way sex heals, it restores the nervous system. When you surrender fully, the body exits fight or flight. It enters deep rest. Touch becomes a signal. You are safe. You are seen. You can let go. And the body listens. It softens. It begins to repair. The second way sex heals, it integrates shadow. Old wounds live in the body, in the hips, in the chest, in the heart. Conscious touch can surface them. Sacred intimacy can hold them. An orgasm can release them. Tears may come. Laughter may rise. Memories may surface. This is not weakness. This is healing. The third way sex heals, it balances yin and yang. Many carry too much yang, always doing, always pushing. Others carry too much yin, always holding, always absorbing. Sacred union restores balance. Yang softens, yin strengthens. The result is harmony. Healing sex is slow, not rushed, not mechanical. It is patient. It listens. It adapts. Every breath is a wave. Every touch is medicine. Have you ever felt that after sex your heart was lighter, that your body felt freer, that your mind grew clearer? That was healing energy. That was sexual chi flowing through meridians, opening pathways, restoring balance. But healing sex requires trust. Without trust, the body closes. Without openness, the energy cannot flow. This is why true healing intimacy is rare. It demands courage. It demands surrender. And here is the paradox. Healing sex is not about orgasm. Orgasm may come, but it is not the goal. The goal is circulation. The goal is release. The goal is wholeness. When you stop chasing orgasm, you begin receiving healing. Partners who practice this become healers for each other. They touch not to take, but to restore. They breathe not to control, but to open. They see each other's pain, and they hold it with tenderness. This is medicine. This is Tao. In Taoist practice, healing sex was a discipline. It was not indulgence. It was cultivation. Energy was guided with breath. Awareness was directed inward. Intimacy became practice, and the result was vitality, long life, radiance. Even today, you can feel this truth. Have sex with emptiness, you feel weaker. Have sex with love, you feel stronger. Because energy moves differently. Because intention changes the medicine. So healing sex is not magic, it is natural. It is the body's wisdom. When love meets touch, when trust meets surrender, the body remembers, the spirit clears, the heart restores. This is why the Tao calls sex sacred, because in the right space, it heals what nothing else can. Not just the body, but the soul. Not just the moment, but the past. Not just the individual, but the bond between two. Sex can wound, sex can drain, but sex can also heal. The choice is awareness. The path is presence. The practice is Tao. Most people see sex as physical, a body act, a pleasure act. But the Tao whispers, sex is also spiritual, a practice, a path. Think of it like this. Meditation uses breath. Prayer uses words. Sex uses energy. And if entered with awareness, sex can take you where silence and words cannot. It can dissolve the self. It can expand the soul. It can open the infinite. In this sense, sex is not separate from spirit. It is a gate into spirit, a gate hidden in the flesh, a path disguised as pleasure. The mistake is not sex itself. The mistake is forgetting its depth. Spiritual sex is not about technique. It is about state, the state of presence, the state of surrender, the state of unity, where me and you blur, where breath synchronizes, where time disappears. And suddenly, you feel not two, but one. This oneness is not metaphor. It is vibration. It is experience. You feel it in the body, but it comes from beyond the body. It feels like being dissolved into something vast, a field larger than self, a mystery greater than words. The Taoists called this merging with the way, because when yin and yang unite fully, they no longer remain two. They collapse into the Tao itself. They vanish into origin. This is why sex can feel divine, why orgasm can feel like death and rebirth.
At its highest, sex becomes meditation, not distraction, not escape, but entry into silence. Every kiss becomes mantra, every breath becomes prayer, every touch becomes teaching. But beware, the ego loves to imitate. You can make spiritual sex into performance, into fantasy, into pride, and then it loses its essence. True spiritual sex is humble, it is silent, it is simple, it seeks no show, it seeks only truth. Have you noticed, when sex is shallow, the body may be satisfied, but the soul feels empty. When sex is sacred, the body may be tired, but the soul feels vast. This is the difference. Pleasure ends, spirit expands. Some mystics even practice celibacy, not because sex is low, but because sex is so powerful. They wish to redirect the energy, to cultivate it inward. Others practice union, not to indulge, but to merge. Both paths are Tao. Both lead to the source. So do not fear sex. Do not worship it either. See it as a tool, a practice, a possible path. If used with awareness, it expands you. If used unconsciously, it binds you. The question is not, should I or shouldn't I? The question is, do I enter with presence? Do I dissolve or do I grasp? Do I unite or do I consume? For when sex becomes spiritual, it is no longer about body, it is about soul. No longer about orgasm, it is about expansion. No longer about two, it is about one. And in that one you glimpse the Tao, the same Tao that flows in rivers, that burns in stars, that breathes in silence. Sex becomes doorway, you step through, and beyond body you meet spirit. This is the hidden teaching. Sex is not opposed to spirit. It is spirit in motion. It is Tao in flesh. It is the infinite touching the finite. And when you honor this, you find that every embrace is also meditation. Every orgasm is also revelation. So let sex be path. Let it be sacred. Let it dissolve you into Tao, not as escape, not as performance, but as truth. This is sex beyond the body. This is sex as spirit. This is Tao. We have walked far, from desire to energy to spirit. But the question remains, how do we live this? How do we bring the Tao of sex into daily life? Because philosophy is easy, practice is harder. It is one thing to hear, another to embody, one thing to know, another to live. The first step is awareness. Most people make love while half asleep, lost in thought, lost in fantasy, lost in habit. To live the Tao of sex, you wake up. You notice breath, you notice sensation, you notice presence. Awareness transforms. It makes even simple touch sacred.
The second step is intention. Ask yourself, why am I entering this union? For distraction? For ego? For conquest? Or for healing? For connection? For Tao? Your intention guides energy. It shapes the experience. It decides if sex drains or restores. The third step is slowness. Fast sex is fire. It burns quick and fades quick. Slow sex is water. It nourishes deep and lasts long. Slowness reveals depth. Slowness opens mystery. Slowness makes space for spirit to enter. The fourth step is breath. Breath is the bridge between body and spirit. When you breathe shallow, energy stays stuck. When you breathe deep, energy flows. So in union, breathe together. Sync breath, follow its rhythm, and you will feel the body soften, the heart expand, the spirit awaken. The fifth step is balance. Do not cling only to pleasure. Do not cling only to asceticism. Walk the middle. Honor the body. Honor the soul. Sometimes you play. Sometimes you heal. Sometimes you meditate. This balance is the Tao of sex. The sixth step is reverence. Reverence does not mean fear. It means respect. It means honoring the mystery. To see your partner not as object, but as temple. To see yourself not as taker, but as vessel. To bow to the energy, the way you bow to the Tao. Integration also means carrying sexual energy outside the bedroom. Every glance, every word, every touch in daily life can carry the same awareness. Cooking can be intimacy. Walking can be union. Silence can be lovemaking. For sex is not confined to a single act. It is an ongoing exchange. It is a way of living.
And here lies the deeper teaching. Sex is practice for life. If you can be present in intimacy, you can be present in everything. If you can breathe in union, you can breathe in conflict. If you can open in love, you can open in fear. The Tao of sex is also the Tao of living. So do not separate. Do not compartmentalize. See sex as mirror. See it as teacher. See it as path. When you heal in sex, you heal in life. When you honor in sex, you honor in life. When you dissolve in sex, you dissolve into Tao. And perhaps this is the greatest secret. Sex is not about pleasure alone. It is about transformation. Not about losing yourself in desire, but finding yourself in union. Not about escaping the world, but embodying the Tao. So what is the Tao of sex? It is awareness. It is energy. It is healing. It is spirit. It is the infinite expressed in touch. It is the Tao revealed in union. The journey ends here, but also begins here. Every breath, every kiss, every embrace can now be a path into wholeness, a path into truth, a path into Tao. So live it, breathe it, walk it. The Tao of sex is not elsewhere. It is here, in you, through you, as you. This is not the end. This is integration. This is Tao.